life certainly seems to be going well for this Danville native. Heather Henson gets to oversee her father's creation, the Pioneer Playhouse, and continue its tremendous success. You might have seen her here on the show representing Pioneer Playhouse. But did you know she is also a children's book author? She's got a new book to add to her long list of credits, and she is sending that book off to Washington, D.C. to represent the state of Kentucky at the National Book Festival. So we're very delighted to have Heather Henson joining us this morning. Heather, congratulations on the new book.
I always love coming here to talk to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that besides running a theater in Danville that my dad started in 1950, I write children's books. And this is my 7th children's book, my 4th picture book. A lot of times I do take a bit of Kentucky history and write it for kids, kind of a forgotten piece of Kentucky history. I've written about the pack horse librarians of Eastern Kentucky, the Frontier Nursing Service, and now it's Stephen Bishop, who was the best-known slave guide of Mammoth Cave in the 1830s and 40s.
Nice.
And I was actually inspired to write this story, to start researching it, after a play we had done at Pioneer Playhouse about 7 years ago called Death by Darkness by a local playwright. And one of the characters was Stephen Bishop, and I became very interested in him and started researching, went to the cave, which is a terrific field trip, by the way. Take your kids, go to the cave. It's wonderful.
As an adult, I don't need kids. I am fascinated by Mammoth Cave.
I know. So yeah, just started researching, and so the process has been about 7 years. I mean, people are kind of always surprised that a children's book can take that long, but it does. So the research, the writing, and then 4 years ago, my publisher decided to publish it, and even from that time on, finding the right illustrator. They got Brian Collier, who is a multi-Caldecott honor winner, Coretta Scott King Award winner. He lives in New York, but he came down to Kentucky to do some research. So
super cool. Yeah, and when you flip through the book, you see, even on the picture there, if you've been to Mammoth Cave, you've seen the names written in the stone.
The historical graffiti.
Yes, and it's so cool, and you reference that in this and how they did that.
I do, because that is one of the ways that the slaves, there were a lot of the guides at this time period were slaves.
Yes.
Because the cave was privately owned for 200 years before it became a national park.
Right.
And that is how they learned to read and write, because it was illegal for slaves to learn to read and write. And people would come and want their names written on the ceiling or the wall, and so the slaves would help them, and that's how they learned how to read and write themselves. And Stephen left his own name there, Stephen Bishop, for us to see. Of course, we're not allowed to write on the cave walls now.
Yes.
It's historical graffiti.
It's historical
not graffiti.
Yes, exactly. Well, I love how you have combined both our natural history and our human history of Kentucky in this book. And I think a really great thing, if your family has been to Mammoth Cave or is wanting to go, pick up this book as a reminder or a lesson before you go and get some historical context.
Because there's not a lot about him, and it's historical fiction. I have to imagine his life. You know, unfortunately, there weren't a lot of records of slaves in the day.
Right.
He was the first to map the cave. He was the first to discover eyeless, sightless fish in Mammoth Cave and cross the bottomless pit. Wasn't always given credit for that because he was a slave.
Right.
But those were recorded, what he did, and this is I imagine what Stephen Bishop would have to say to us if slavery had not silenced him.
Really cool. And people will have an opportunity to pick up that book and even talk
anywhere
with you,
books are sold. And actually this weekend in Stanford, Kentucky at Kentucky Soaps and Such. Go to KentuckySoapsandSuch.com.
Love that store.
Wonderful. Day trip to Stanford, wonderful. Goat's milk soap. They have a spa day, so if you're a mom or just a person like yourself, go get pampered, and then in the other room I'll be reading to the kids with cookies. So Stanford, Kentucky, Saturday at 11, Kentucky Soaps and Such.
Awesome. Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming. Congrats on your continued success.
Thank you.
And we're going to be back with more for you coming up right after this.